Shabbat Shalom. The word shalom in Hebrew is a little bit like aloha. It means hello and goodbye. It can be used as a greeting or a farewell, or even the southern shalom y'all. I'm trying to make that happen. But the word shalom really means many things. It doesn't just mean hello and goodbye. The most well-known meaning of it, of course, is peace. But it actually comes from the root in Hebrew meaning wholeness or completeness. Peace, then, is what we have when things are whole or complete. And we're safe and secure. And war is what happens when that wholeness is shattered and broken. Shalom, peace, is a primary value in Judaism. We're told by the mystical text, the Zohar, that God is peace, God's name is peace, and all is bound together in peace. And this primacy is reflected in many prayers for peace. Shalom Rav and Sim Shalom as part of the Amidah, Shalom Aleichem, and Oseh Shalom that we heard tonight. So what does our tradition and our prayers tell us about peace in this time when we see peace shattered in Ukraine and in so many times when, as we see sadly throughout the history of the world, there has never been a time when there has been peace around the world? One aspect that is common in Judaism is a recognition that much of what we want to do, much of what we hope to do, much of what we strive to do, seems like a very big task. Let's be honest, creating peace in the world seems like a gargantuan task, and it seems so because it is. In a history so full of strife and war and division, the thinking of bringing peace into the world can be quite daunting. But Judaism says, as it does in so many places, that the creation of peace in the world starts small. Our sages tell us that the person who makes peace in his house, Torah reckons it is as if they have made peace for every single Israelite in Israel. And Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, the former chief rabbi of Great Britain and the Commonwealth, notes in a commentary on the prayer Oseh Shalom, which translates, "May the one who makes peace in the high places make peace for us," and says, the meaning is clear. It is not enough to make peace in the high places, through summit meetings, international gatherings, diplomatic initiatives, etc. Peace must grow from the ground. Its seeds are planted and tended by hundreds of local encounters in which ordinary men and women meet, talk, and make the effort to understand each other, hearing the hopes and fears and anxieties and resentments of people on the other side. This idea that peace comes from hearing those differences is something that is very entrenched in Judaism. We tend to think of peace as what happens when there's unity. Harmony is what happens when there's uniformity. But our tradition teaches us otherwise. The Talmud famously tells us about the arguments between the schools of Rabbi Hillel and Rabbi Shammai. They argued for years and years and years, and as the Talmud says, what the one forbade, the other permitted. They agreed on almost nothing. And yet, the Talmud also makes sure to tell us that despite all of those differences, people from the house of Hillel married people from the house of Shammai, and vice versa. That closeness and that love could exist despite those differences. In a world where so many try to erase or denigrate difference in order to make themselves feel more comfortable or more powerful, like Putin, who insists that Ukraine is Russian even though they disagree and are clearly different and distinct. In such a world, the words of Rabbi Abraham Isaac Cook, the first Ashkenazi chief rabbi of the British Mandatory Palestine in the land of Israel, words which Linda read earlier, are very important. True peace comes through the expression of differences. Many perspectives, each offering a partial view of the truth, because shalom means wholeness. Only when we open ourselves to understand all sides of an issue will we attain peace. Through our disagreements, truth will emerge, and we will find shalom. We will find peace. Perhaps, most significantly, as is always the case in Judaism, we're told that we must actively do things, pursue peace. Psalm 34 tells us, seek peace and pursue it. It's not enough just to make peace where we are. We must go out and make it elsewhere. We must pursue it. And the truth is, we so often fail to pursue peace. When we accept war and injustice and hatred and division that we see so much in the world, and when we accept and turn a blind eye to those who perpetrate it and who lead to the shattering of peace. We must indeed even do more than just fight war and strife and division, but to actively pursue peace and justice in order to crowd out war and hatred. Abraham Joshua Heschel, great rabbi of the 60s, says, we have failed to fight for right, for justice, for goodness, and as a result, we must fight against wrong and against injustice and against evil. We have failed to offer sacrifices on the altar of peace, and so now we are forced to sacrifice on the altar of war. We are active in pursuing justice and goodness and peace. There will be less space for war, and peace will thrive. A couple of final thoughts. As we end the Amidah, we end with a prayer of peace, Shalom. And traditionally at the end, we step back 3 times. It's as if to say that to create peace, we have to create space for others, for their dreams, for their wants, for their desires, and to be willing to let go a little of our dreams, our wants, our desires. We hope in that light that Putin and the Russian people, perhaps more likely, understand that they need to step back from the precipice and allow for others like Ukraine to have their space, their identity, their peace. We understand that while Ukraine may be far away and it may seem far from us, there's much we can still do in our own way. We can advocate for our country's leaders to do as much as they can to support Ukraine, to fight against Putin and his invasion and his larger plans of a greater Russia. And we can, for ourselves, donate goods and money to organizations like the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, the American Jewish Joint Distribution Committee, and so many other Jewish and non-Jewish organizations that help feed and shelter and care for refugees, and to make and to bring peace to those who have fled Ukraine, those who are hoping for an end to this war, and to help them in their time of need, and to help them find peace and security and all that brings. Kenny Hiretz.